Hi, Corey Geiger joined by Neil Rudel. 34-0 Penn State win over Kent State, Neil. And an intriguing game because the passing game just was not effective today. But this looked to me like traditional Penn State football. They beat them with the running game, beat them with the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could have really stuck with the run even more in the second half and probably beat them 50-0. But I think Bill O'Brien, even though he said that wasn't the case afterwards, I think there was an effort made to try to get Hackenberg into a better routine, a better rhythm in the second half. He's only 2 for 14 in the second half. So, they could have kind of named their score, I think, against Kent State, but I think that they were trying to polish up a passing game, and it was pretty bad conditions with the rain, but they just were off sync.
Hackenberg 13-35, and you're right, there were sequences where he'd run Zach Zwinick for 3 plays and Zach would go for 20 yards, and then all of a sudden you'd see 3 or 4 pass plays in a row. And O'Brien even said that maybe wasn't the best play calling, but you made the point during the game, and I think you're right. Okay, you still have to work on things. You've got to get Hackenberg going. Yeah, you could beat this team 50-0, but if you don't get Hackenberg going, then have you really developed him today?
No, I think that and it was kind of interesting that he and Robinson, I mean, they went for Robinson a half a dozen times on kind of low percentage fades in the end zone. Now, a couple of them worked this year, but neither Robinson or Hackenberg was available to the media, so clearly it was not a performance that they didn't want to talk about. I mean, the season low for Hackenberg, 176. Robinson only had 3 catches, so they kind of leveled off a little bit. But I think some of this is to be expected. You have a freshman quarterback. He's eventually going to show some growing pains.
Defense throws a shutout. First shutout since 24-0 over Kent State in 2010. And the defense didn't play well last week against Central Florida. Bill O'Brien obviously knows what the media is writing and saying about his defense. He kind of took the media to task after the game, saying, hey, you guys were all over them last week, and said John Butler and his defensive players did a hell of a job today.
Yeah, they did. And, I thought that their corners were in better position today. Kaiser had a nice game. They closed on the ball. Now, clearly, Kent State, I mean, what did the Kent State, this guy's in his first year,
yeah,
right?
What
did the last guy do to his AD that he gets LSU and Penn State on back-to-back weekends?
Yeah.
So you don't know. I mean,
that guy's at Purdue now, and he's not doing any better.
This non-conference schedule, you don't have a great sense of how much improvement was made today because of the quality of opposition. But had Kent State made a lot of throws and made a lot of completions, then there would be more cause for alarm.
Ryan Kaiser played a great defensive game, want to single him out, and a lot of guys on the defense played well.
Barnes seemed to be a factor more.
Not a good Kent State offense, so you have to point that out as well. The running game, I want to get your thoughts on this real quick because Akil Lynch doesn't even show up in the game until there's a minute and a half to go in the third quarter, and he rushes for 120 yards, including 43 yards on his first carry. Bill Belton and Zach Zwinick also big days, 287 yards on the ground. And here's an interesting thing, because I think this is, as good as Lynch was, we had this discussion after the game about who was the player of the game. He goes for 120, but Belton's yards came during more meaningful action, and he caught the touchdown. So who'd you go with?
Yeah, well, I ended up being talked off the ledge and changed it to Belton. I think Lynch has been more explosive, but there's no doubt Belton made the play down here in the left end zone to get them going because they've had a lot of slow starts. They've only scored 21 points in the first quarter this year, so that was a third down play. It was a good play. So we ended up giving it to Belton, but in a game like this, it was not an obvious choice. I debated Ficken for a minute with a 54-yard field goal, which was really cool. What a great story that he has been.
No doubt about it. And again, all 3 running backs played well. Zach Zwinick 3 touchdowns, Belton 90 yards, Akil Lynch averaged 90 yards or 9 yards per carry. So when you have 3 guys like that, and you have the luxury of bringing in an Akil Lynch with 1 minute to go in the third quarter when the defense hasn't seen him.
Yeah.
I mean, what an advantage that is.
Yeah, and the offensive line, I think, is playing pretty well. Hackenberg did take a couple sacks, but now they go into an open date and have a chance to, they're 3-1. I don't think that's a whole lot worse than most people thought they'd be. They thought they'd have a chance to be 3-1. I'm sure a lot of people hope they'd be 4-0, but with an open date, and you're going to go to an Indiana team that can score.
That'll be a lot of fun. I think we might see a lot of points in that game. All right, for Neil Rudel, I'm Corey Geiger, Lee Carey on the video. Thanks for tuning in.